Welcome to the African Career Podcast with me, your host, Pardingtone Nhundu. We are here to have conversations, and critical ones actually, of those conversations, talking about how we should build and enhance Africa's workforce. So it stems into what we are doing in Africa, what is being done in Europe, and how we should correlate, learn, and also unlearn some of the things that we do. But interestingly, today, we are sitting with Pauline. She is going to introduce herself, but it is a conversation where we talk about how young people from Africa are getting opportunities to go and study in Europe, and how it is a good thing, or how we should make sure we harness the skills that then come out of those interactions. Pauline, welcome to the podcast, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Pardingtone. Hi everyone, my name is Pauline Esther Wangari, as he introduced me. I'm excited to be here today because this is an area I'm most passionate in. I have been an international recruitment expert and gained my skills and experience over the years, about 5 years counting. And currently I serve as the international recruitment officer in charge of Africa for a university based in Ireland, which is in Europe. And I'm excited to hold this conversation, and hopefully we all get to learn something today.
Yes, thank you. So straight into it. You have had an opportunity to sit down with a lot of young people. What is their main reason of leaving? Leaving Africa or leaving Kenya? Is it because of the education, or there is actually totally something else?
I would actually say both, yet it's interesting because opportunity takes the largest portion of students who come to us that they want to migrate to Europe. Because at home, someone would look at the job opportunities after my studies. They most likely know their peers who graduated way back and are yet to find any opportunities. The other smaller portion, I would give it 35%. They understand the value and the difference we have in terms of education here at home, comparing it to other opportunities for study abroad. So when you look at those two students, or two types of students, then you would understand that when one comes to you, they will say they want to migrate for studies, but they'll tell you on the side that, look, I'm only going there because there are job opportunities after I graduate. The other student will candidly tell you that my parents have invested in this, they've saved up, and they actually advise that it's ideal for me to take my studies and get a global certificate or an internationally recognized certificate.
Yeah, so does it mean most of them, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, should we say 7 or 8 out of 10, really know what they want to do after they graduate, or they are just picking any program so that they just leave?
If you asked me that question 2 years back, I would have said yes. But with the way things are changing, and when I say things, I mean the people on the ground who are recruiting students to study abroad, we call them counselors or agencies. They are now becoming more intentional to guide students to know the outcome of their careers, right? So currently we've noticed a change. Students understand that I want to study nursing because I want to work in the health industry because I'm passionate about it. Just a small fraction who are a bit unsure, and they'll tell you, I just want to get a job. Sometimes they'll even think that they'll get jobs within their study period that can make up for even their living expenses, which is not true. So again, the changes are there. 2 years back, most students didn't know or didn't really mind which course they'll get into, as long as they've moved out of their home country. But at the moment, we've noticed a change, and it's a good change because, again, we encourage that it's a whole investment. So you want to invest into a place that you understand this is the outcome, or this is a journey that I'm undertaking, instead of going abroad, getting stuck in a computer science course and then calling Pauline because you want to either switch courses, or I'm being called by the school because you've been missing classes since you found a job. Mm-hmm. So sometimes those are the cases that we've encountered in the past, but so far so good.
How many of those students come back after graduation?
I honestly knew one. She came back and then she moved to a different country. Mm-hmm. So she had gone to a country to study her bachelor's program, came back and then stayed in our country for like 2.5 years and then left. I recently also met one from TUS. The long for TUS is Technological University of the Shannon. So that was one of the students we had graduating last year. He recently moved back to the country. I'm actually excited to meet him soon. And I hope he'll talk about his intentions to stay a bit longer, because you understand that the opportunities we get to study abroad, and I always tell this to my students, you want to take that knowledge and come and transform your homeland. Otherwise, if we are not doing anything positive for your homeland, then it's always going to be like we're exporting labor, which would not be a good thing. We always encourage that they share the knowledge and come back and now make the positive changes in the home country. Sadly, that has not been happening, but let's be optimistic and see how this plans out in the near future.
Yeah, certainly, because that also builds into the conversations that people have about brain drain, Africa losing its brightest minds and different things. But is it actually the case that Africa is losing its brightest minds compared to how these foreign universities then recruit students? Do they have the same requirements? Are they higher or lower than the requirements we have in Africa when they are accepting students into university?
I would say we are suffering loss in terms of our top talent, the best capable students, because when they go there, they get the numerous opportunities that sadly our countries have not been able to directly offer. However, I would say that how they're categorized or the qualifications are strict. I wouldn't say higher, but they're quite strict. You'll find that a student who studied and they've actually earned an entry for their masters abroad might just need even work experience. If, for example, our entry requirement for a master's would be an upper division, right? So if a student scores lower, like a second class lower, because we want a second class upper, this student would win an entry at TUS simply because of the work experience. So this student, most likely because they've built themselves up so far to even get the work experience, it only shows that this is a talented student. This is a student who's very well skilled. They already understand the industry and what is happening and where they're headed. So I would say they're not higher than our own entry requirements, but they are more strict
in their requirements.
Yes.
So moving on to the next one, in your experience so far, do our HR managers across Africa favor a European qualification over an African qualification when they're hiring?
Okay, interesting question. Unfortunately, I'm not a HR, so I will not really directly respond to this based on that aspect. Rather, I'll talk about it from where I sit. And it's something we always talk about with students as well, that if one student produces a certificate from a university abroad and another produces a certificate for a university at home, most times the student who studied abroad will be taken for a job. The reason is, look at their soft skills, look at how they communicate, look at how they do their work. That alone would have the student who has an internationally recognized degree getting the job compared to the other student. And this is not to generalize, so not all of the students would carry themselves in that way or are of that caliber, but most students who have studied abroad have the right exposure, and they're very I would say they're very reliable compared to our students back at home. I think for a long time we've experienced the kind of curriculum where you're only taught to follow instructions or to pass exams, and rather you're not also developing your soft skills, you're also not understanding the practical bit of what you're learning. And most universities abroad would guide you to understand the practice aspect of any course you'd be taking. So that's, from my point of view, that would be it.
So picking from the previous conversation, we were talking about how European universities are strict when they are recruiting. Is it then maybe the same case again, generalizing again? Will European recruiters also favor European qualifications over African ones?
No, they wouldn't. Out there, the world is so open-minded, and I can't wait for a day where we will have the same happening for us here, because out there, it's your skills that present you. It's actually your skills that they would look at. It's your passion that will get you these opportunities. So they wouldn't really be concerned whether you have a degree from their own country or your own country, as long as your expertise can actually be seen. I'll give you an example with how learning model at TUS is. We normally have a lot of industry-led programs, and that means the industry leaders would be part of the professor or the teaching team or the curriculum team. And when we have days where we're encouraging students to present projects, if a student is so good, it doesn't matter whether they're at year 1, year 2, year 3. If they're really good, and one industry or one company, because we also invite companies to be there when they're presenting their projects, if one company identifies this student, trust you me, this student will get a job with this company. And this is just from a presentation of a project. So they really value how well a student understands and is very well able to show they are really well skilled at what they're doing. So that's just it. They will look at your talent, they will look at your skill, and you're good to go.
Oh, nice. So when parents or when guardians are sending their students or their children to Europe, what is the biggest misunderstanding they usually have? Number one, for the parents themselves or even the students before they leave, what is their biggest misunderstanding that you would want to tell us?
Okay. It's a long list. We will take the whole day. But let me talk about two major issues here. So with parents, I'll start with our parents. So most parents are expecting that, oh, Pauline has gone abroad, so there is what we call black tax.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter whether you've gone for studies, parents would just expect you to send money somehow. Mind you, when you're there, you actually, in some countries, and especially Europe, you are allowed to work and study at the same time. To be specific, in Ireland, you're allowed to work 20 hours per week and 40 hours during summer holidays, right? So this money you're making is not much money. It's like just extra money for you to spend. But your parent doesn't really want to know that, because look, I paid almost 3.5 million Kenya shillings. Then how are you telling me you won't be sending some money back home?
And the parent can't continue sending you money.
They can't. Some of them even just stop and remove all the money they put in your account for your living expenses, which is really sad. And happily, I've not met any student at TUS who has suffered such an instance. But again, parents expect you to send something back home. Sometimes these students can end up depressed because you're only there to study. You barely have time to work. And the few hours you're allowed to work, you won't make that much money to send back home. So that's one of the misconceptions that parents would have of you going abroad for studies. The second thing is they actually now, and I think I've already covered it on the first point, they expect you to now support yourself fully. They are assuming you have a job and making money enough to send back home, as well as take care of yourself. And unfortunately, the money you'd make within the 20 hours a week would not be sufficient to even cover your own living expenses within your stay in Ireland or other countries. So that means your parent, and the conversation I'll have with parents at the point where we meet in the beginning is, do you understand the financial implications of this decision? Are you able to provide for your child up to this point when they graduate? How much money are you planning on this? Because most of them will just tell you, oh, I actually thought it's a tuition fee. When they get there, they'll be able to cater for their own money or living expenses. Unfortunately, and sadly, that is not the case.
So for most of the opportunities that you give to students as they move to Ireland, are those mostly on scholarships, half scholarships, or the parent has to cater for all the costs?
There are numerous scholarships, but with Technological University of the Shannon, we only accept self-sponsored students. And any student coming through scholarships in Ireland, such as the Government of Ireland Scholarship. We have several programs in Ireland. So now again goes back to the student understanding and doing their own research. So they would know, when I'm applying, am I going there as a self-sponsored student, or will I be looking out for scholarship opportunities? They are there, but with my university, the Technological University of the Shannon, we offer up to 6,000 euro scholarship. So that's quite a good amount considering the living expenses and the amounts required to study abroad in general. So then we encourage students who are not able to meet up the rest of the fees to consider other scholarship opportunities available in Ireland.
So the biggest statistics that we always get is how many young people are going to Europe, to Ireland, but how many, when they get there, they drop out of their studies for one reason or the other?
Yes, so we have a good number. I won't talk mostly about Ireland to be specific. I have students across, and at a specific point, and I'll talk about the reason why most of them drop out. At a specific point, I had a couple who had to come back, and because either they did not pass their exams several times, you receive a warning, a second warning, and the third you're just told that you'd have to, your offer has been cancelled. Yes. And the other couple of students I would talk about is those who go and they want to change course. So sometimes when you want to change course and you're so far gone into it, they'll ask you to come back and start the process afresh. The other kind of students would be students who maybe they feel overwhelmed, they no longer think that is what they really wanted. You know, sometimes in the mind of a student, they're thinking that I'm going there for work or to make money or to experience life. Then they go there, find it's a crazy schedule. Again, comes in the importance of sitting the student down to help them understand the kind of environment they're getting into. So what happens and what we continuously encourage our partners on the ground to do is have real conversations with students. Let them know that the first thing you need to understand is, are you comfortable with the course you've chosen? Because you'd rather say it now and we look at other options rather than you getting stuck when you're already in a country that needs you to come back for you to change the course altogether. The second thing, what is your goal? Because if you tell me you're going there for work and I'm helping you get a student visa, that does not align. So it has to align, because if you come to me for a student visa, you get it, get there, then you realize, oh, my parents at home are expecting me to send so much money. You start getting stressed and depressed, and eventually you'll really not be in a good state to even continue your stay. So I would say not a big fraction, not even a notable number. Those are just minor and unique cases. But so far, students who've gone there, I would say 95% have continued their studies up to graduation.
All right, so from your experience, how you have seen how European universities or tertiary institutions are organized and run, and how they are done here in Africa, or specifically even to Kenya, what do you think would be the advice that you'd give to our ministry to say, there are 2-3 things that you can do that can allow our education sector to move a step further?
It's actually good that we are talking about this point right now, because earlier this year we had an event dubbed Study in Europe, and the Ministry of Education here in Kenya was also present, and it's encouraging to see the partnership growing, and the conversation has already started. So everyone is engaged to know what is being done different and what they can do here to change and make things better. The first thing I would say is we need to continue pushing for industry-led programs, because it's really important to not just provide courses for the sake of it, but what is the demand in the next 5 years? And where are these jobs going to come from? And this also applies to students going to study abroad. Because sometimes a student will come and tell you, I want to study business, for example. And you know, if you go to study business in a country like Canada, you'd barely get jobs. I mean, they even have it there when you're doing your visa, because that course is not going to be matched with the opportunities available. So One, and the conversations that we're having with our Ministry of Higher Education here is, can we now start looking at how we can integrate an understanding of where does this course take you? What are the opportunities in the next 5 years when I graduate? Or even as a person, what can you do yourself with this knowledge that you're gaining? So the first thing is industry-led programs. The second thing is actually encouraging students to be able to understand the practical aspect of it. And sadly, we've noticed in the years past that most students would graduate, you'd have an amazing bachelor's certificate, but when you're given a simple task, honestly, you won't be able to do it. We all know how it is when you go for internship, right? You'll end up being the messenger, you'll end up making coffee, and this is your internship where you should be taught how to actually do the work. You see, universities abroad will take you for internship early. I know some universities here in Kenya also do the same, but can we start seeing students who are graduating with knowledge, enough knowledge of what they're meant to do when they get the opportunities? And the best thing I can say so far, I've noticed a change in the positive direction, so this could be a good sign for us. So those are the two key things I would say we could do different, and to be able to kind of meet the students who are also studying abroad and the kind of environment they're exposed in.
So I think from the program that, or the activity that you did earlier on, has government initiated any activity before or maybe in the immediate future that they've planned, which is on how industry and academia can come together and have a conversation?
Well, this was my first one to attend. I believe there was another one last year. This happens yearly, so this is to show that they're actually actively working on it. And what I actually picked out from that event that supports your my answer to your question is, you see, even how we were sitting, the sitting arrangement itself was based on the kind of industries that are involved. So if it's in the IT industry, people within IT were sitting together, and this is to combine everyone from across Europe, be it Ireland, be it Hungary, be it Netherlands, Germany, all of us. So you see all these different people sitting together and are joined by this one industry helps the conversation, because if you're there as a lecturer here, a lecturer from a university in Kenya or Zimbabwe or whichever country here in Africa, then you're able to ask these questions directly to these people and see how that answer comes out from someone's opinion from a different country or from a different curriculum. So that's to say we should all look out for the next year's event and see if there's any progress so far, but I feel like there's already steps in the right direction.
Is our government, or is your government here in Kenya incentivizing the talent that we have outside to come back and bring the skills here?
I have not seen anything directly happening towards that. I've not seen anything happening directly toward that, sadly. The only thing I know is even the universities who've partnered with other institutions, higher education institutions abroad for exchange programs, they always make sure that these students come back to share the knowledge they've picked from universities abroad. But for students who come to us to go to abroad directly, I've not seen anything being done directly. Maybe it's happening on the ground, but I've not really caught it just yet.
You've been in this work for half a decade now. Why? Why this work?
It's interesting how I got into it. Maybe let me start with that. You'll understand why in a few. Because myself, I just sat one day and I had this friend from church who kept asking me, her name is Joanna, she kept asking me, Pauline, what are you doing in Kenya? You're not supposed to be in Kenya. You should go and explore life. Life is amazing out there. She gave me an assignment. She told me, go list institutions abroad who are providing opportunities for students and start calling them to know what you need to apply. So when I went on Google, the only thing I could do was Google agencies who take students abroad, so I can go to the agencies to find out about these institutions. Now, when I Googled the few partners or few agencies that came up, one of them, I'll mention their name because they're also amazing. One of them is Cradle. Cradle came up top of my list. I reached out to them and immediately someone called me. So when she called me, she told me that, hey, these are the requirements. Are you able to meet the requirements? What do you think? So we had a conversation. At the end of the call, she just asked me, by the way, would you be interested to work with us? I really like how you express yourself. So just tell me if you're looking for a job at the moment. Of course, you know my answer was yes. And that's how I got in. And so that led on to a period of me learning. I would say 3 years into that job, I learned so much. And that's when I found the passion and realized, oh, this is what I want to be doing. And my passion was actually directed to career counseling. So initially I got in as an admissions counselor with Cradle for a while, and then I started and I led the department for career counseling for some time, of course under the guidance and leadership of a few people. I'd love to mention Anushka and Manish Sadana, who is the CEO of Cradle. And that's actually, they're the people who nurtured me to identify that, oh, I'm actually passionate in career counseling. And that's where my journey began. And since then on, I've been doing this and happily doing it. It's amazing because now when I look at it and students call me from all these countries I've sent them to, I feel like I'm helping them live that dream that I always had, to live in these countries that they're all going to. So it's always exciting, when a student will call you and tell you, I like this country, because again, this work is also not easy. But I don't think it's work that's really easy, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, work is not.
Every work has its own challenges.
Has its own challenges. Yeah.
But that fulfillment for us, and for, I know most of us who are in this industry will tell you, the fulfillment is on when a student actually calls you to tell you that they're satisfied and they're happy in the institution you help them go to. So that's my story. I am in this industry. I have been for a while, and it's all because of my passion and I would say I found my purpose doing this and guiding students.
And the money that comes out of it as well.
Well, of course the money. Of course the money is good. I wouldn't say it's bad.
The unique part is there are some careers which have an instant gratification. Just to say, instant gratification is when someone says we have to build Nairobi Expressway. They go into a room, they write it on a paper, they plan, they do this. In the next year, they can actually see it. It's instant. It's instant gratification, like you said, which is unique, and which is good for most people. But along that, what has been the most challenging, the hardest moment, or the hardest thing that you've experienced with a family looking for a visa for their child?
I would say one particular student who had an issue even when we started the application. And at this time she had a gap year. So a gap year is when we can't really connect what is on your CV with a specific period of time. So every period of time since when you completed high school or your last study period should always be accounted for on the CV, right? But this particular student did not have anything showing for about 2 years, and we had to go back and have a conversation of what happened. Now, we were able to go through that and get a solution. We got a few universities who said, we understand and we can accept her. When she was accepted, we applied for the visa. Everything was okay. But then again, she couldn't get the visa. Mind you, the parent of this student had been saving for some time, so the student could study abroad. And when now they were ready, along the way again, one of the family members was unwell and they used up all that money. Why this is one sad situation for me and this student is because you can imagine she's been home for almost 3 years now. Time is moving. We have to account for the time, and when you can't account for the time, it makes it a bit difficult for you to apply for visa, and every country is going to look at and actually want to find out why there's a mismatch and what has been happening within a specific period of time.
But surprisingly, most people maybe I think mid to upper level in terms of income families, they usually get those advices for their children to do a gap year. But mostly they're talking about do a gap year so that you get to find yourself or understand better your career choices or something like that. Will that still then be acceptable?
That's absolutely okay, as long as how you're finding yourself in quote is something we can show. Let it be maybe you took up volunteer work to know which career pathway suits you, or to understand what the career you're interested in looks like on a day-to-day basis, but not a gap year to maybe sit and you can't really account for it. So it's absolutely fine to take a gap year, but let it be something we can actually account for the period you took the gap year.
Pauline, thank you very much for having made time to be with us for this particular podcast. What could be just one word to that young person out there who's looking forward to get their studies done in Ireland?
Thank you for having me. It's absolutely amazing to keep the conversation going. And one thing I would like to say as we come to an end is moving abroad for studies is not just about you being in a new environment. You need to also ask yourself what you want in life. Know yourself first. Know your goals. Understand how your passion, your interests, your skills all align towards the goal that you're pointing out as your goal. Then that way, with strategy, you'll definitely find yourself in the right spaces, because especially at US, we support our students from the beginning to the end, even when they're interviewing for jobs. And we're actually known for producing students who are job ready or market ready. So that's because we always encourage students to come from that angle of, you're not just going abroad for the sake of it. Do you understand how you as a person are aligned towards the goal of this journey you're taking up? So I'm excited to see more of the students coming to us from that aspect, and we're happy to support them anytime.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pardingtone.